What's up, everybody? I'm Jim Barry. Welcome to another episode of Miami Life. And we are coming to you today from the CBS News Miami newsroom. This is really the nerve center for where we gather the news day in and day out. But make no mistake about it, the stories don't just show up on our doorstep and say, hey, cover me. It doesn't work that way. We have to go out and get those stories. And that's really what this show is all about, bringing you the stories that are unique and interesting about the community in which we live here in South Florida. We lead off this new episode with a profile of a guy who is shaking things up on Miami Beach. David Suarez is a newly elected commissioner who is trying to make changes, not friends. We found him to be very approachable, but also very unapologetic. If anyone exemplifies a Miami Beach millennial, it's David Suarez. He scoots around town on a scooter with a pet pooch in tow. And if you ask, he'll even give you a ride.
You might want to hold on to the waist.
Okay, gotcha.
Or that's fine.
All right.
Right there.
I don't want to be too friendly with you.
That's okay.
Suarez is smart, wealthy, and unapologetic. To some, that's a nice way to put it. Abrasive.
I am very aggressive, confrontational style. When you ask me, am I abrasive? Okay, am I confrontational? Yes, and I'm only doing it for the sake of our quality of life. What I am suggesting is that we take action today.
As a newly elected Miami Beach commissioner, David Suarez has become the bowling ball, impatiently trying to knock down all of the bowling pins. He led the charge to close a dock to chase away people living nearby on boats.
It's a public safety issue, so who's to say that if there is a sex offender out there or a pedophile or a criminal with a warrant?
Suarez has also chastised the police department for not cracking down on speeding and criticized the city manager for being too passive on issues like illegal boat charters operating in the city.
Apparently a lack of leadership on how we manage our city.
You know, quite frankly, I feel so disrespected by you.
Suarez wants his city to be pristine. He complained when this fountain didn't work for months, and even floated the idea of getting custom-fitted clothing from Miami Beach's public works employees. The city of Miami Beach might have been the only city then that would have sanitation workers with custom-tailored clothing.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, you know, look, I think look, I think everyone, you can, if you have the opportunity to make your clothes fit perfectly to your body, I believe that's a great opportunity.
David Suarez grew up in Sunny Isles. He graduated from the University of Florida with an engineering degree, but now the 40-year-old entrepreneur runs a successful skincare company. After settling in Miami Beach, he thought the city turned a deaf ear to his complaints about the proliferation of short-term rentals. It eventually led to him running for office by financing his own campaign.
I put in $600,000 of my own money so that I don't have to answer to anyone and I don't have to owe anyone favors.
Once elected, Suarez put up a mural of Abraham Lincoln outside of his office with a quote from the 1800s, which he says still resonates today. Honest Abe.
Honest Abe, yeah.
Honest Abe, Honest Dave?
Yeah, yeah. I like that. Sure, we'll go with that.
Now, in his mind, Miami Beach needs an image makeover. No more party town and no more spring break.
What I think is sometimes everyone has amnesia. Last year it was probably the worst spring break we've ever had. Back-to-back shootings, curfews, and stampedes.
This isn't working anymore.
And it's not us, it's you. We just want different things.
Suarez is 1,000% behind moves to choke off spring break crowds, with measures some see as draconian. Sealed off parking garages in some areas, $100 parking fees in others.
My goal for March is no one dies.
Understood, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But some question if the beach is going too far in trying to prevent black visitors.
Does this involve color? Of course it does, because the people that are coming during this time are people that look like me, are people that are typically African American young college students. And so, yes, there's the aspect of race to it because we realize that the people that are enforcing this on are people of color.
What I find insulting about that is that, you know, there's Black Lives Matter, and I'm actually trying to save Black lives because I think 90% of the people that died were black in Miami Beach on spring break. And so, you know, I want to prevent as much death as possible, especially black lives.
Once the South Beach sun hits his face, the new hardline commissioner shows his soft side as a family man. He seems pretty committed to this city.
He's all in.
Yeah. You ever tell him, hey, David, chill?
No, there's no chill. He's 110% in anything he does.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is who he is.
Yeah.
As he strolls through the city he now calls home, Suarez admits that as time goes on, his style will need to change. Rubbing some people the wrong way, he says, has been a necessary evil.
David,
Yeah.
you're famous.
I guess.
Everybody knows you.
I hope in a good way.
But Suarez believes his agitating style has won over people who admire his determination. The end game? For Miami Beach not to just be a great place to visit, but a great place to live.
I want it to be a place where people can raise a family and live full time. That's the primary goal of at least how I envision the next 10, 20 years.
You want Miami Beach to turn into Weston?
No. No. I think, you know, look, I'm not trying to get it to Sarasota, but I'm trying to prevent it from looking like Cancun. We're a very quirky little island with quirky aspects. We're very unique in many sense.
And quirky commissioners?
Yeah, you can say that.
So you might be wondering, is this spring break crackdown working? Well, after the first weekend, Miami Beach police report no major incidents. In fact, they say there were about 150 arrests made during the first 10 days of spring break this year. That's down about 25 from last year. And people noticed there was much less traffic in the area and the streets not nearly as crowded as they have been in recent years. All right, let's talk a little politics. Over the course of the next week, Republican voters will be casting ballots in the presidential primary here in the Sunshine State. And even though 2024 looks like it's shaping up to be a rematch of what we had in 2020, Florida voters still definitely want to make certain that their voices are heard. CBS News Miami Elliot Rodriguez spent time talking to voters, and here's a sample of what he found out.
An early St. Patrick's Day party, Hialeah style. These seniors are mostly Cuban Americans who tend to be loyal Republican voters. After their dance, we talked presidential politics.
A presidente a Trump.
Trump.
A Trump, claro.
You say?
A Trump.
Trump. Y aquí?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You like him?
Ah.
Hialeah's #1 Trump fan is Mayor Steve Bovo. He led the effort to rename part of Palm Avenue President Donald John Trump Avenue, an idea that got unanimous city council approval.
He's popular in this city. He's controversial. But we don't really care if he's nasty. We don't really care if he's abrasive in his way of talking. We love his policies. And the guy says what he's going to do. And that in my community speaks volumes.
The mayor isn't the only hardcore Trump supporter here in Hialeah. In fact, everywhere I went, I asked one question. I got the same answer. Who are you voting for?
Trump, every time.
Definitely.
Every time.
Donald Trump only wants to help himself.
Ade Ferro is a Venezuelan-American Democrat who told me many Hispanics are attracted to anti-democratic strongmen.
We have a little bit of PTSD with everything that has happened to us before, and we like to hear somebody talking the way a strong man talk, like Chavez.
But an FIU study finds that 52% of Hispanics believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. 43% approve of how President Biden is doing his job. 45% believe Biden should not run for re-election. 57% believe Trump should not run. Hispanics were also asked what is the biggest national security issue facing the country.
They told us that border control was the #1 national security issue.
But these could be people who crossed the border to come here themselves.
Probably so.
Right now, the most important concern of everybody is the border.
In Doral, Republican fundraiser Max Alvarez sees the border as a national security threat.
What is happening today is not immigration, it's called an invasion. People are coming in and we don't know who they are. All these criminals coming in, the fentanyl, the drugs, that's the biggest problem that we have right now.
We want to commemorate Women's History Month with a story about the founder of the Jewish Home for the Aged. Hank Tester tells us the story of Ida Cohen, who founded a place that is still serving the entire community today. It's been there for more than 50 years. Here's Hank.
Her picture's on the wall, down the hall from the reception desk, Miami Jewish Health, Ida Cohen. This is Ida Cohen in a proud moment next to the bronze and stone monument dedicated to the Miami folks who contributed funds to establish what was then called the Jewish Home for the Aged. That would be Isidore Cohen, merchant, community leader, signed the original Miami City Charter. This picture, Ida, Isidore, and granddaughter Jerry Cohen. Jerry will tell you Ida was a tough cookie, but... The Jewish Health Project was not her only passion. Listen to this. I asked Jeffrey Freemark what he would say if he could speak to Ida Cohen. So that's the Ida Cohen story. Her legacy, well, you're seeing it. 25 acres of caring, love, hope, still here after all these years. I'm Hank Tester, CBS News, Miami.
Well, we are in the middle of an environmental crisis. Coming up on Miami Life, why coral reefs are in danger and what is being done to stem the tide of damage. And also, we're going to visit the Miami comic book store that has been creating fans of the amazing and fantastic for half a century. We'll be right back. Well, record high temperatures have done some big time damage to our coral reefs. And the projection is that things could just get worse because climate change is really doing a number on our planet. We all know that. The question is, what can be done to save the environment here in South Florida? Our Dave Warren went exploring to find some answers.
Scientists from NOAA returned to the Florida Keys this month. Their mission? To assess the impact of last summer's marine heat wave on the reefs.
I think we were really bracing for major losses of coral.
Andrew Baker is with the University of Miami Rosenstiel School. We came to him after NOAA released its report. Of the 1,500 staghorn coral surveyed, less than 22% remain alive. Those coral were only observed at Carey's Fort and Horseshoe Reef. Elkhorn coral, they were found farther south, but only at 3 of the 5 reefs surveyed. At Looe Key, neither coral survived.
Something like 22% of the tagged staghorn corals that they looked at have survived, which, is not great, but it's a hell of a lot better than we were fearing.
Fears that peaked last summer as ocean temperatures soared to record levels in a matter of days. And while coral did die, not all were impacted the same.
Typically, this bleaching event happens over weeks, but we've seen these corals essentially cooked in a matter of days, which is extremely alarming.
Dalton Hesley is a senior research associate at the university. When that alarm sounded, it caused him and other researchers to become rescuers.
It was necessary to actually launch a full-scale coral rescue.
returning when the water cooled just a few weeks later. It's research that these scientists are doing here in these tanks that they hope will solve the long-term problem of helping corals survive despite a warming ocean due to climate change.
We're actually very interested in looking at these survivors to figure out why they survived and how can we use that to generate corals that are better able to deal with the climate of the future.
Ensuring that the coral not only survives, but thrives is essential for all those living in South Florida and the Keys.
If this coral were thermally stressed or heat stressed, it would turn white.
White or bleached coral. When they look like this, they no longer have food and can eventually die.
We're preparing for more of the same. All indications are that the Earth is still, this coming year, going to be possibly another record breaker. And that's kind of news for us.
Ocean waters. They're already warm this year, which means if the warming ocean trend will not change, then the coral will have to.
We think that actually this species is an unusually tolerant species. It seems to actually resist heat stress quite well.
And it means these researchers will have more research to do as summer temperatures rise later this year.
And that means really incorporating new science into the way that we restore and try to use the best available science and collaborate and coordinate among investigators to really make sure that we're putting out the best corals we can.
Well, so the report showed that close to 80% of the coral in the Keys was impacted by that ocean heat wave, but 20% managed it, and it's work that continues to be done in these tanks here at the Rosenstiel School that they hope will get those numbers up and help deal with warmer and warmer ocean temperatures. In Virginia Key, I'm Dave Warren, CBS News Miami.
When we come back, we're talking collectibles. I'm told this is a very valuable one. What is this?
A Funko Pop.
A what?
A Funko Pop, Jim.
A Funko Pop. When I was a kid, the collectibles were comic books. And we're going to take you to a store in Miami that has been delivering comic books for comic book fans like me for 50 years. They got books and Funko Pops. Be right back. Welcome back to Miami Life. Well, before DC and Marvel superheroes became Hollywood action stars, you could find them in comic books. I remember those like yesterday when you would go to the vending machines, put in a quarter, and sometimes you could get 2 comic books. And they were a great way to build your vocabulary. I learned words like diabolical. Well, there's a place in Miami that has been delivering comic books now for more than 50 years, and it is really a throwback to an era gone by. But guess what? It's now caught on with a whole new generation. Tucked in the corner of a tiny strip mall on Bird Road in Miami is a local landmark, A&M Comics and Books.
Just got in a set of black hole comic books that are really rare and really cool.
It's a one-stop treasure shop for all things pop culture, cluttered and bursting with nostalgia. Remember the warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? It's like that. The store is packed floor to ceiling with collectibles, comic books, action figures, Funko Pops. Even fans of old Saturday morning cartoons will find something here. For comics fans, digging through the long boxes is half the fun.
I'm looking for Godzilla Dark Horse.
Some items, like this Superman puzzle, are incredibly rare and worth big bucks. But A&M's bread and butter is comics. George Perez has owned the shop since 1990, but he was a customer first.
I collected Defenders, Avengers, and X-Men as a kid.
He later took a job at the shop before eventually buying it from the original owners, Arnold and Maxine Square. The store's name was taken from their initials.
And I explained to him, I don't know about movie collectibles, I don't know about baseball cards, I don't know about sci-fi. And he goes, you'll learn, like the way I did.
A&M is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, but it has not always been easy. During the pandemic, the store almost closed for good.
For the first time in 36 years, I wasn't allowed to open. It was against the law. And I still had to pay rent. You shouldn't say this, but I was sneaking in regular customers in through the back door.
A Miami Herald article about A&M's struggles led to an outpouring of support from customers with fond memories of their childhood comic book store.
The most touching was this older lady called. She goes, your mom was very nice and helped us get our daughter out of Cuba. and she's always meant something special to us. I read the article, and I can't afford it this week, but I want to know if I can send you $20 next week. You know, like, kind of like broke your heart, but no, I'm okay. For now, you keep your $20, but this phone call is worth $1 million.
Perez says the reason he's still around while others have closed is simple.
Customer service and treating the people right.
A&M is not just a store. It's a family tradition for many people. Parents now bring their kids to buy comics at the same place where they first learned to geek out.
It was great. I mean, the place looks very similar to the way that I saw it back in the 90s. So being able to introduce it to him was awesome, and, you know, getting him into the room of buying comic books and, you know, coming often enough to get the new series every time it's available, I think it's great.
I have now counted 6 or 7 third-generation customers. Like a little boy a couple of months ago goes, "Hey, mister, you sold my grandfather comics when he was a kid. You're really old." And I go, "Bless your heart. Yes, I am really old, but I'm still here."
By the way, A&M Comics and Books is not only the oldest store in Florida, it's one of the oldest in the entire nation. We'll be right back. Well, next week at Miami Life, we're going to take you to the Old Davie School. It is the oldest school building in Broward County, and we're going to meet a lady who has all the stories about its very rich legacy. And don't forget to send us your comments, thoughts, and suggestions about the show. And also remember, you can watch it on TV 33 tonight at 10 p.m. I'm Jim Barry. See you next week.